Yes, we're ready to start the stream. It's time.
You're now in a different continuum than the world you're used to.
Good morning.
Hey, folks, good morning.
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
And let's get right into the show. Tony Caravan with you. Nothing seems to work properly.
Weekend.
Got to clear my throat, and I banged the microphone. Will there ever be a perfect beginning to this show? Coffee. It's strong. But that's a good thing. I'm pouring more hot in. I try to keep an equilibrium from what is being stored here in the pot. I mean, we do know from the laws of physics that the volume will help. And I got a little VU meter going on there, which is pushing his CPU up a little bit. And I'm also wearing the old black, winter's hat, which came from an expedition I was on. We can't see the total URL, which is just as well, because I don't know if that person that was knighted by the Queen would particularly agree with everything I'm saying. So, but it's like that Tim Pool thing. Tim Pool. These guys that wear, it's kind of throwback to the 90s, because I remember in the 90s a lot of guys were wearing knit hats in like the summertime, or basically, to me this is like a winter, when I wear this when I'm walking down the street in the wintertime. But I just put it on for the gag of it, Oh, happy day. I just chatted to the group that doesn't exist. Today's show is ROCKFLUX Live 9/25/21. You're getting to be a habit with me. I think that might have came from one of those gold diggers of the 20s movies. Ever see those movies? That's like where Ginger Rogers was really just a youngin'. Yeah, they were like all, and that was the 20s, the risque 20s, where they were like, the movies were pretty sexy for the time. And then only, that was the days of Bugsy Berkeley. Was it Bugsy or Bugsy Berkeley and all those, what was the other guy? Cecil B. DeMille. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. My show is a constant close-up, right? So there's guys from the Mystery Science Theater, this is about, they're looking at the big screen of me. You're getting to be a habit with me.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
You betcha we're going to do that right after that. It's 4:40 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I've got to laugh. 4:40 Eastern Daylight Time, man. I'll tell you. And I still don't know if my volume is up. I don't know. It's like my volume upstairs at my TV. I hope the thing's not going to scanner nightly and blow up on me. But it seems like I turned the volume down on here. But I'm noticing that the volume on everything, including the other shows, are too loud. So it's not the volume on this getup. It's the volume on YouTube. So don't go telling me. Don't go telling me that I'm doing the wrong thing, folks. In the year 2041, as far as I know, I was involved in a couple of expeditions, well, quite a few expeditions, Antarctic expeditions, that the UN, Antarctica is basically a hands-off type of place right now. And at the year 2041, that expires or must be renewed, this UN mandate that they've made. And of course, in the year 2046 is when the sun novas and life as we know it will cease to exist. It'll be a near extinction event. So I don't know so much if there's really a need to worry about renewing that hands-off thing. But the idea is no one's really taking their hands off Antarctica. I mean, it is littered with bases, and who knows what kind of stuff. The U.S. base in Antarctica is literally a complex, you know. And I'm sure we were doing military surveillance activities and such the like down there. You know what it's like. What can one do? What can one say? And that's the way it is. It's the world we live in, you know. We're beyond the point of being those who are concerned about that stuff. You know, it's an exercise in futility, like I often say. That VU meter does not seem to be in sync with my voice. But there are so many things operating here simultaneously. Do you know what a VU meter is? Can you find a VU meter on the screen? Where's Waldo? You know, one of my part-time jobs, it's not really a part-time job, but the thing I'm doing is I'm like rebuilding this menu for somebody. It's the kind of graphic stuff. Look at the mess. And then I went with a friend of mine who's been very helpful for me. We're going to get into the a little picture of the attic thing. And he took me to Home Depot yesterday to get some supplies to fix the attic. And wanted to have lunch at one of these pulled pork places. And then those people, somehow he got talking about that I was doing a menu for him, and now I might have to do a menu for them. I don't know. Something to do. If I have time, get a couple free pulled pork sandwiches. I don't eat that. I really don't necessarily eat that stuff. I'm a healthy guy, healthy food eater. I had an order delivered yesterday from the Instacart folks, and believe it or not, I'm sorry for the scruffy face, but I didn't even try to shave down the stubble today. But they delivered my bottled water. So I got a case of bottled water. See, I like to keep a case or two of bottled water upstairs. In my refrigerator, I have one of those Brita filter things, you know, so I've got fresh water downstairs. But I like to have, and I have like it's in the corner here, a little bottled water here for emergency purposes. But of course, I just drink from the old ROCKFLUX mug. Hot coffee in the morning. And yes, the cat is afraid.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
The cat is afraid of the coffee machine.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
Good luck with that, buddy. Good luck with that. Anyway, let's take
Weekend weather.
a look at the weekend weather. Hey, I'm scared. It was supposed to be nice for the next couple of days, man. Check this out. Weather valid, 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Saturday, September 25th. That's which it is, calendar year 2021. And if you look, I see some rain coming into pretty much the mid-Atlantic, hour away from the entrance to the Northern Appalachian Trail. So what the heck's going on? Because yesterday, as you'll see in a moment, I did some prep for the leaking areas, and today I was going to put on something else. Now, you look at your neck of the woods here. You could see over in Arizona, New Mexico, they're going to get some rain, right? A little bit the southern tip of SoCal and the Gulf of California, the Baja Peninsula. Florida's getting some rain. There's this subtropical, storm Teresa that's hanging out there in the Atlantic right now. The extreme northeast is getting some rain, and there's this big swath of rain coming into from Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, right over, in Indiana. I guess it's raining in Indiana right now. Like, what the, Now, my local forecasting event here is saying there's a 10% chance of rain. Sunday's supposed to be extremely sunny, and I wasn't supposed to get thunderstorms possibilities till Tuesday. So I'm very, this is, do I believe NOAA and the National Weather Service? You got a good glimpse at that, everybody, where you live? All right. Otherwise, here is the National Weather Service geographical forecast, and I'll just pull this up so we can see the, former United States. And these are the temperatures for the day around the country, maximum temperature in Fahrenheit. Okay. Daytime high for Saturday, September 25th. I'll just bring that into view for you. And this was issued this morning at 3 a.m. And as you can see, it's going to get up into, the whole western part of the U.S. is going to be in the 80s. And even the 90s in some parts of California and, Florida. That's not that unusual. Texas. But the eastern part, it's almost like you could split the country down the middle, and then it gets into the 60s and the 70s on the whole eastern part of the U.S. of A., former U.S. of A. Now, I don't care about that because I've come to acceptance that it's fall. But this is what I'm talking about now. Now we get my mug back on the face. What I've done here, and I'll enlarge this a little bit because we don't need to see my face. I want to get this point across to you, and I'll even bring this over a little bit further so you can get the full idea. So here's my latest plan in attacking this roof thing, and why I would, if rain comes today, will basically put the kibosh on my whole plan. I went to one of the box stores yesterday, and it looks like a rather sloppy caulking job, but it's not really. It's just the nature of the wood is not smooth, and there's nails protruding, et cetera, et cetera. So trying to get a clean line of caulk across here, you're bumping into nails and little protrusions of old wood, 100-year-old wood, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, if you look towards the right side, you can see the slats, the holes between these planks. And these planks of various widths, too, which is kind of odd. And some of these boards have splits on them, which are more apparent in this picture than they actually are in real life when you're up there. And I've got to rethink that and put some. So anyway, so here's the idea. I got this rather expensive caulk, which is more than caulk. It's a sealant caulk. Okay? 100% waterproof, it said. And I filled those gaps in between these planks, these roofing planks. And you can see this wood is still in pretty good shape. It's not like it's rotted, right? You know, I mean, it's dried wood, but I mean, it's not like there's no signs of mold or anything like that. And, you know, the classic knock on wood type of thing. No, it's pretty sturdy. It's strong still. And I don't know if they're some of them are 1x6s, 1x8s, 1x4s or 3s. I mean, I don't know. You could see there's a whole variety of wood there. That upper one looks like it's all 1x12 or something. The one at the top. But at any rate, so I put this 100% waterproof sealant caulk in between the gaps of these boards, which is where a lot of these leaks come through. I covered it with basically that mesh tape that you put in like drywall. Okay, I have no idea. Overnight it was 49 degrees here. So I have no idea. And that stuff has very light, it adheres, you know, it has like it's sticky, so it adheres to the wall. It's supposed to adhere to drywall for interior use. But I have no idea if the changing in temperature might have just had that stuff. I'll go up there and this stuff might be peeling all off. But assuming that, knock on wood again, it didn't, then my idea is I've got this gallon can of roofer sealant, like stuff you actually paint on. And I was going to paint over that mesh because this stuff is like, it's not thin paint. It's like a thick, it's a little bit goopy. And I figure you've got, 100% waterproof caulk filling the holes. I've got this mesh over top of that. And then I'm going to put this goop over top of it, utilizing the mesh as a form of, something adhering to this and creating this bond and whatever. The only problem is I have a number of these places, and I can demonstrate this. Let's see, in real time. And I have such few listeners that I'm sure there's some people who are interested in this. And if you're not, I'm going to take a look at this stuff anyway. So the method, this was the method to my madness. That's the title of this one. And let me make sure that I got the right title card up. No, I didn't. Browse. Title card. There it is. So the title card will give you an example. And I'm hoping that's a title card. Let me double check my title card. Make sure I put that up. Yeah. Okay. Oh, happy day. So fixing a roof where the rain came in. I don't know if you remember, that was a line from an old Beatles song. And then I just put the word inside out. And this is a close-up of the mesh. So you get an idea there as well. And maybe I will put the Then What book. Just keep that up here. What the heck? I don't know. We'll get back to the title card later. All right. Actually, how could the title card even be showing? Oh, I see. I made that image of the day. Title card. Excuse me, folks. I'm sorry. Fixing the roof is a title card. Image of the day. We're going to go back in and show you another view of the attic. I think I have that was the close-up that we used for the title card. Fixing roof. Method. Forgive me for being looking like a zombie. I'm just trying to thought I had another one. Maybe I threw it away. Yeah. I don't know. Why do I do these things? Why do I do the things I do? Well, anyway, the goal is to eliminate as much of this craziness and madness as possible. And this is nothing like it looks like right now. So that's that. So the title card now back should be to a realistic title card. Fixing a roof where the rain came in, inside out. Now, this doesn't affect the upper portion of the roof. For you DIYers who might have tuned into this show and are looking at this, I have no guarantee this is going to work. You know, it's hard to say. But I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it the old Irish try, as I say. And so here I am. Here we are. And let's get on with the show. So the subtitle of the show was You're Getting to Be a Habit with Me. And I guess that means this show. Because for some reason I was driven to get up, come down, and do this thing. 4:58 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And the heat was on at one point, but it's off now, so it's a little bit cooler in here. So I kind of could have doubled up this shirt, you know, instead of just had a single shirt on. It's cold. Pulled pork sandwich. I haven't had a pulled pork sandwich I don't know how many years. And yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I had a what they call a take and bake pizza. This pizza shop. You know, they have they just keep in their freezer a pizza that they make. You could take home, and you know, I just nuked it. You know, plop. They gave me a little container of. Friend of mine owns a place. That's the menu I'm making. Gave me a baggie full of pepperoni, and I threw that on. So it's like 2 days in a row. I went off my broccoli, you know, all this other stuff. And Instacart, and I talk about these places because it's a review. The show is a review show. And, you know, I wanted to get this. They had these bags of like cleaned of garlic that's been like papered or whatever you call it, and instead they make substitutions, and they substituted with these tiny little garlic in this mesh thing, tiny little garlic, you know, bulbs of garlic, which I with the paper on, and it's one thing to get a bigger bulb of garlic because it's you get a bigger bulb, you kind of bang it with the side of the knife. The paper comes off and you chop it up. But these tiny little things, it's like you got to put like magnifying glasses on and use about 4 or 5 of these things to get enough garlic, you know. I don't even know why they sell them, to be quite honest with you. You know, not that I would be dishonest with you, but I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at my headphone wire and where it was. So I liked a tattoo video. He's still doing these 1-minute shorts. I mean, he got it. I don't know if he got 20 some views. Hats off to him. 20 views. I got yesterday when I viewed mine at the end of the day, I only had 1 view. And I think it might have even been me because, after the show I had, when I send it out to, various different platforms, the link, like sometimes I think it, it counts that as, might count that or not count. I don't know. Because it's, even though I have a couple of YouTube account names, they all seem to be interlinked in one way, shape, or form. So I can't imagine YouTube not knowing it's me. Because otherwise, if I watch my video, I don't get it. It doesn't count as a view. But in any event, 1 view. And if it was the 1 view of the person in the morning, like for right now, the average concurrent viewers, I had 2 playbacks today. Average watch time, 0.4 seconds. 4 seconds. So that is like YouTube itself, I guess, doing some kind of thing. I don't know. But it's weird. So I guess this is a little bit slow starting here. I was looking at the news. Don't mind me stretching a little bit. I mean, I slept fairly well last night, though I did get up in the middle around 11-ish, and it took me like, I don't know, about an hour, up to an hour to get back to sleep, I think. And my VU meter is just like seems to have stopped, And I don't even remember what I put the VU meter under. Is it the mug? Yeah, it's the mug. Let's see if I put it on again. Then it'll start doing its thing again. So yesterday was an incredible show. I watched the show back, and and I thought, we covered a lot of territory with that. It was pretty interesting. And that's why I'm thinking that eventually, and I might bring this book down a little bit more, because you can't really see the great solar stuff thing anyway. And Codex is still in the dark. I could turn the light on. The on-air light is an actual light, by the way. Watch. See? And then, of course, I have this one. And that's running from the Jackery there. So all those lights are coming from artificial power, stored battery power. Now you can see a little bit of Codex there in the background. I'll keep that on for a while. But in a world gone mad, I was going to listen to the voice assistant today and ask her, it's a recorded voice. It's not even a computer generated voice. It's actually literally a recorded voice. Like, isn't Siri was that way? There was actually this woman who was Siri. And so they do this recording. And I guess at some point, it's like with those fakes, video fakes and different things they do. They take enough. I mean, you've seen that in like Mission Impossible movies. Excuse me. Where they get somebody on the phone or they have the recorder there and they get them to read a paragraph that has like the key number of syllables or structural things that they could create the conversation or, whatever it is my voice is my passport. Remember that from that movie, Sneakers? My voice is my passport. So they had to record this guy saying the word voice passport, my, is, and somehow get that in a conversational way. And they do all that kind of stuff. Optical recognition, facial recognition, handprints. I mean, the iPhone is facial recognition and thumbprints. I mean, that's right out of like Sneakers and, Mission Impossible movies. And there's people still out there that like would think, oh, that's sci-fi. And I'm going, but your own smartphone, you put your thumb on it or, kneel over. And that would activates your, verifies your credit card or whatever, or, the ones that have the facial recognition. I have an older one, so mine's a thumbprint one, which is incredible technology if you think about it. But how people just take this stuff for granted. It's crazy. I'm still like half asleep today, so I apologize, but I say this often, and I do end up usually waking up.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, So it's a Saturday. That doesn't mean anything to me. It probably means something to you if you're a working, person. A day off, right? I just hope it doesn't end up doing this. Because if it does, I'm in for that. I don't want to be in for that. And whatever they're saying here, please don't. I rather put up with this. My lawn, my yard is so overgrown that it is unbelievable. Like it's a thin yard. But it's like that. And the grass hasn't been mowed in well over a month or longer since my electric lawnmower broke. And now it's like too high for a push mower. At one point, several weeks ago, I took the weed whacker thing out and like did some edging around the path to get to the back. But that's like since overgrown. And my weed whacker does no longer like self-feeds that thing, the plastic thing that comes out that whacks the weeds. So like every couple minutes you have to turn it upside down, open up the back and pull out. It's like, oh, come on. It's like, it's where I always give the example. It's like the old jiggle the toilet handle in order for it to flush. I mean, thank God I don't have to do that now. But now that I mentioned it, one of my toilets will probably. It's just craziness, and that's the whole idea here, I'm fixing a roof where the rain came in. Actually, it was fixing a hole where the rain came in. So this way I'm not pulling the lyric. Exactly. I'm fixing a hole where the rain came in. It kept my mind from wandering or something like that. It's an old Beatles song. But anyway, I'm fixing a roof where the rain came in. So assuming it doesn't rain today, which is puzzling, I mean, I really, it's got me. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm looking down at various things that I could put up. And my chair, while I was doing that, decided to like slide down. All right. This show is listed under people and blogs. Okay?
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
And so I'm not particularly trying to push this on anyone. And this is just if you want to spend some time with somebody, come into my abode, my life, enter somebody else's life. I saw something, that Bill Maher guy, it was just a title card on YouTube when I turned on today, where he was trying, like, the guy is so out. He's so out in left field, it's pathetic. And he was trying to say something to the effect of Americans think they have it bad or something. They don't know what it's really like. Let me see if I could pull this up. New window. YouTube. Hopefully this won't cause some kind of crazy thing. I see my cards up. But no, it's not there. And we kept our broadcast going. Probably because it's a Saturday. CPU's at a reasonable level. But anyway, so, yeah, I know there's places in the world where people, where children have stomachs distended because of starvation. There's places in the world, like in communist China, where they have gulags, and they're basically, they're concentration camps. They're tormenting people, stealing their organs and selling them on the open market to the ruling elite, which is probably one of the reasons why people look the other way with communist China. There's all sorts of places. There's serious terrorist problems growing in Africa. Africa is the new Afghanistan, but Africa is, a ginormous continent, of very diverse, countries within that continent. There's so little that we in America, for all the talk about, how they make African Americans, the color, divide that is propagated by politicians in the media, right? For all of that talk, it's amazing how little there's any study of Africa and African history and the whole nine yards. I mean, there are courses, college courses, and I'm sure in some high schools in certain areas there's some things taught. But generally speaking, if you polled the vast, vast majority of Americans, or if you had, I talked about yesterday, there used to be this wooden, puzzle type of thing where it just had the states of the United States, and they were made out of wood, but they didn't have the name on them, or they might have had the name on them or whatever, but it's a kiddie puzzle, so that you had to put it together, put the proper shape state, in to finish this puzzle, to make this puzzle, right? I worked with a guy one time when I was in the agency business, and he was creating a game based on Africa. And it was which really was we never got the thing out. It would have caught, he didn't have the financing to get, we basically created prototypes for him. Cards, maps, there were pads. It was a game. It was a fun game. It was an educational game, and it was about, these cards. You picked a card, and on the back of it was a particular trivia. It was kind of like a trivia game, but it was multiple choice, like A, B, or C, about different African countries or different things in Africa. right? Or African customs, or blah, blah, blah. The continent of Africa. And then there was this thing with this map, and, and it was, if you played this game and you won this game, and it was something like you didn't do it once and done, because we got into it. It was complex. There was like a lot of cards, a lot of different things involved in this. And we thought that we loved the idea, and we thought this would have been a great thing for the world, and particularly, to educate people on the continent of Africa, because it's one of, but it was a struggle even for a black man pushing this game to try to get in front of the gaming companies and to get funding to show how little concern there was. And this was under the Obama presidency, which you would think there would have been even more of an open-mindedness to do something. But even, forget the color issue and that whole concept. This is this idea of Africa, learning about this continent that is like ignored. And I was, it's like, I'm not one of those people that believes in pride, but I mean, if I did, I would say I was proud to have worked on this project. And there was two of us spearheading it at the agency, and we enjoyed working on it and enjoyed learning. By the time we had created the prototype for this game, we had a very good understanding, and it was a lot of eye-openers, a lot of stuff we didn't realize. People have no idea the vastness of that continent, the diversity of it, the history, the varying histories, and now you've got communist China going in there and playing games where they're funding various works projects that they know the countries or the communities can't pay back. And when the community can't pay back, they say, well, that's okay. We'll just take a controlling interest in that dam or that utility or that oil, resource, or that those minerals, and you won't have to worry about paying back. You could just pay back what you can afford, and we'll take control and interest. That's going on in Africa right now. Have you heard that on the nightly news? Seen that? Anything about that on YouTube? No, I doubt it. Unless you're somebody who really digs deep and or is involved in what, as I say, cares about the world and what's going on, or understands that the world is run by socioeconomic geopolitics, that those four hyphenated words. I just turned off. I had a amplifier on the side. Because I was listening to Tattoo's video earlier. And so, and for once, I just noticed, hey, Trey, what's shaking? I just happened to see the, right now I can't see the chat, but when I was checking on something, I noticed the chat. But yeah, people don't know that. And so not only is China there now, but Tulsi Gabbard was talking yesterday, and she's been talking about it for a couple of weeks, because she had gotten back. She's still like in the active reserves. And she was over there on some kind of mission that was basically involved with monitoring and, she could only talk so much as, because this, there's a certain amount of security involved in it, but it was basically because of these terrorist groups that are using Africa the way they were using Afghanistan. So Africa is like, so not only you got the communist Chinese over there playing these games, trying to take over the minerals, the oil, land, and things like dams and all that sort of stuff. But you've got terrorist training camps around. And, so, this is pretty amazing stuff, that's going on. So, it's crazy, man. It's really crazy. These really are nice mugs. They're sturdy. It's neat. I like the blue. It's like blue inside, blue on the handle. I don't know if the color blue's coming across. And the logo's there. It's kind of fun. I'm pouring the rest of my coffee in to see if that will bring the temperature up a tad. Remember, volume. Turn up the volume. No, volume of water. Mass and volume. So, it's just another one of those things. And it's like Southeast Asia. People know nothing about Southeast Asia. In fact, when you mention Southeast Asia, the average person's thinking Vietnam or something like that, right? And, there's this whole, I was going to use the word archipelago, however you want to pronounce it. But, there's all these islands, and, like the Philippines and this chain of, of these little countries, people don't even know anything about that stuff. They don't know about the people who live there, like what it's like. Thailand. And, and I've heard firsthand stories from people who've visited there and, things like that. And, there's beautiful people, there's interesting people all over the place. As people living their lives. And, we're so consumed with, ourselves, And so it's no wonder that, Western civilization is fallen and, this is the former United States, which, is sure to, drive some people nuts whenever I say that. But I mean, really. It's like people, they make these news readers, they have these great speeches, and they love to divide people on these, come up with these stump speeches and statements about, black and white or whatever, this, that, the other. But, they don't know, they don't really know anything. They have no concept of other cultures and what's really going on. And so this started with me talking about Bill Maher trying to say Americans think they have it bad, but there's, and it's like, yeah, there's truth to that statement because there's people in this world living in abject poverty. However, there's people in this country living in abject poverty. I mean, really bad. Now, there's no reason why anyone should starve in America. I've been through that, I don't know, dozens and dozens of times talking about, the what they call EBT, electronic benefits transfer, which used to be like food stamp programs and things like that. That you're under a certain level of income. You don't pay taxes, you get food, you get free health care, you get housing. And if you don't get housing, you get housing assistance. There's all sorts of programs. We indeed have had and, this safety net for many, many years. It's nothing new. It didn't happen this year. It didn't happen 4 years ago. It didn't happen 8 years ago. We have that. But still people suffer. And, there's people homeless, and people living on the streets and all that sort of stuff. But then again, yes, it's because the price of housing in this country is astronomical and it's ridiculous in those cities. But at the other point, there comes a time where you have to make a decision. In other words, why are you sleeping on the streets, sidewalks of San Francisco, panhandling? And some of these people panhandle. They make a lot of money panhandling. Some other people, not everybody does. Some people are just downright, living, they've got mental issues, serious mental illness. Other people are just, totally down on their luck. But there's other people who are out panhandling and they're bringing in hundreds of dollars a day panhandling. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. More power to them if they're able to do that. But the problem I'm getting at is that, as I say many times, where I live, my rent, mortgage, or my mortgage, taxes, and insurance, I don't rent, I own. Mortgage, taxes, and insurance is less than $200 a month. So yeah, you can't afford housing in San Francisco or New York City where it's thousands of dollars a month just to pay rent. But there comes a time, I've been to San Francisco many times. I used to go to all the Apple events and things like that. But I lived in L.A., and I know what, the cost of living was in L.A. Of course, I made money when I lived in L.A. But if I reached a point in L.A. where I couldn't afford to live in Malibu or Beverly Hills, I lived in Beverly Hills, I lived in Malibu, I lived in West Hollywood, and I lived in Hollywood itself. Of course, Hollywood was the first place I lived because Hollywood's a dump. People don't know that unless you've been out there. Hollywood's like not Hollywood. They call it Hollywood, but Hollywood is over the valleys where they shoot most of the productions. Though there's still some studios, within L.A. CBS still has its like studio center. Across from like Cantor, I think it's called Cantor's. There's this place that's been there forever. But I used to pass it by when I used to go to work, at one point. Just a quick L.A. story, though. Quick aside, anecdote. It's just one of those things.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
L.A. traffic. But I was in the city in L.A. and I was coming down. I don't know. It could have been La Cienega, one of those bigger, boulevard type of streets. And I'm stuck in traffic, okay? And I look to my right, okay? And there are cops in full, the bulletproof vests with like the machine gun type of things, AKs or whatever the heck, right? And they're like sideways like this, one on each side of this door, and somebody else they're ready to like kick in this door. But here's the thing. I'm in my car. The door is like, there was nobody in my passenger seat. So if there was somebody in my passenger seat, I'm looking out my passenger window and that's what I saw. And so like if somebody would have came out of that door guns a-blazing, or these guys would have burst in and I'd have been like totally collateral damage, and my car would have been Bonnie and Clyded. That was a true story. I haven't thought about that one in a while. The LA scene, classic LA scene. you know. But what I'm getting at is that you have to come to a decision that if you don't want to, you know, in LA, in some of the, and in New York, and in these big city centers, megalopolises, whatever you want to call them, you know, major markets in the media sense, you know, you have high crime. You've got a high concentration of people. And, you know, and the police in many cases are, you know, functioning like the military, you know. I mean, there's wars going on there. Like, people don't even in America understand the gang concept. So when a guy like Bill Maher comes out and says, Americans, you know, like Americans have it easy and don't know what true suffering or whatever is. It's like, hey, get lost, man. You know, qualify that statement. Yeah, the ruling elite and people like Bill Maher who live in either a gated community or some high-rise apartment with a doorman as private security team and gets picked up in a bulletproof SUV with a chauffeur driver and gets driven to the studio and back from the studio through some underground garage and hidden exit. Yeah, a guy like you know, with your infinity pool or something, you know. Yeah, those kind of Americans, right, have it easy. But aren't they the ones who are trying to, you know, who are bringing the rest of us down and trying to divide all of us? No. What about the people, you know, on the streets, you know? So I get a kick out of that. It's like, you know, there's just as much, you know, Appalachia. All right? Inner city. You know, there's neighborhoods. You know, in Phil, like I said, I've been in something like 40 of the states. You know, I used to drive around. I don't do it anymore, but I used to drive around. And it's only gotten worse. But I've been to Chicago. Yeah. I've been to all these hot spots. I've been in New York City. You know, lived and worked there. I told you I lived in L.A. I've been through Watts and South Central L.A. and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, you know, these are really crazy places, and they're comparable to some of the worst places on the rest of the planet. You know, people are living in fear for their lives every day. And that's why I'm trying to bring up in the concept of the gangs, like, which seems to be forgotten. You know, at least under the last administration, there was talk, you know, you would hear constant talk about the gangs and trying to do something about it. But it's, you know, that's totally gone. That's another one of the things that just vanished from the news, vanished from people talking about. Believe me, you know, the cartels, you know, these drug lords, gang culture is rampant throughout this country. Rampant. Poverty is rampant throughout this country. But you have to remember that the politicians, you know, they say inside the Beltway. I lived in D.C. too. I lived and worked in Washington, D.C. And I lived in the outskirts of town before I actually lived on Capitol Hill. Right before I left, I lived right on Capitol Hill. I could walk down the mall, they call it, you know. But, you know, there are parts of D.C. that are just like war zones. But they ignore this because the people in the media, they're insulated from it. They're multimillionaires. You know, there are certain, you might have a favorite announcer, you know, newsreader on TV. Like I said, I cut the cord, so I don't have it anymore. But, you know, there might be somebody you watch. Well, do you know that they make like $20 million a year? And that their life is like it's what you would refer to as, I've referred to it often. I have a song, a beat poetry song about it called Breakaway Civilization. It's a breakaway civilization. They don't even live in the same, world as you. And so, and maybe in some regards, some of these people can't even be blamed for not knowing, what it's really like out here in the fields, like that Who song, out here in the fields, out here in the real world. They don't know. They've never done it, never experienced it. I remember once I was staying, and this is years ago and times have changed because there's this thing called gentrification that they've done where they've gone into these neighborhoods that were once, really bad neighborhoods and low rent and, and it was interesting over in Williamsburg, over the Williamsburg Bridge in Brooklyn, in New York, when I first went to New York, two artist friends of mine were sharing a loft in this old industrial building. It had an elevator that you could fit a car in it. All right, that's how you got up. And there were a lot of artists in there. And what really neat, they used to have parties on the roof of the building. And from the roof of that building, the World Trade Towers were still up at that time. This is how long ago this was. And, we used to hang out, and then periodically they would have these parties on the roof because it was safe up there. You're on the roof. And you had you were over the bridge, so you had the full view of Manhattan, the skyline, the cityscape, right? As opposed to a beautiful landscape. And I've talked about that before. There is a certain, awe and majesty and beauty of architecture and what humans have built, despite, the destruction that, we've made in building these things. But I mean, what a sight to behold. And to be on top of this roof and looking at the entire, cityscape of Manhattan. And sitting up there listening to music. They had bands sometimes. I mean, it was a big roof of an old industrial building. But down on the street were drug dealers, and it was just really, it was bad neighborhood. Okay? I had this old Chrysler, and my battery was stolen like 3 times out of my car. Lights taken out the back. I eventually it was such an old car. It was a big old Chrysler. My dad had given it to me, after he, used it, because those old Chryslers just last forever, right? And so it didn't matter. It wasn't, and so I actually kind of welded on a padlock on my hood so that you couldn't get into it. And, in my naivete, I was only in my 20s at this time. I had no idea that the gangs had, those, cutters, that could cut through this lock I put on it, which is one of those advertised bulletproof locks. It's like, no, they weren't going to shoot at it. They basically just had these cutters. So they cut it open and stole the battery again. But one night I went there. I was staying with these friends because I had gotten a job in the city, and I had got an apartment. But my apartment, I couldn't move into my apartment for, I don't know, it was like a week before I could move in. That's how it is sometimes. You settle on the deal, you get the lease and stuff, and your move in is you don't move in the same day. So the move-in was whatever day it was. So, and these were friends of mine. One of them was a friend from high school. Actually, somebody who was in the same grade as I graduated with. And the other was a woman I didn't know. I think she was from Philadelphia. But she was, I got to know her well. And we used to hang out together. And, well, anyway, so one night I went to go crash there. And I couldn't get in the door. So they were either not around. I mean, they were up on like the 4th floor or something like that. The door was locked, something. I couldn't contact them. This is before cell phones, and all that kind of nonsense. Or they weren't home. I was early. Is what I was. Is I was. So I'm crashing in my Chrysler, and like these guys pull up behind me, and I was trying to mess around. I don't know. I was somehow messing around with the light. Anyway, so this guy wanted one of my tail lights, because his tail light was out. And, I didn't know these guys had guns or whatever. I mean, they were like talking this, that city speak, street speak. It's like, in the director's cut of Blade Runner, they got rid of the narration of Harrison Ford, which I thought was good. I disagreed with the director, taking that out. But, where he talked about how on the street there was like this street speak. And, you'd see that in inner cities sometimes. There was a certain style of street talk, It was different than just, it was a combination of all, an amalgamation or whatever of all the people, the downtrodden living in the inner cities or whatever. So I let this guy, I actually helped this guy take one of the lights out of my back of my car, because I wasn't about to get shot over a tail light, and I wasn't really driving my car at night. I wasn't worried like, you worry about elsewhere. In fact, eventually that car just ended up getting towed, and they used to tow cars and put them on the Navy Pier. One time it happened to me. I don't even know if those Navy Piers are still there. I'm really getting into like New York trivia. If you're a New Yorker, you know what I'm talking about. And I had to get it out of there for like a couple of $100. But the last time it got like towed from someplace, I just let it ride, because you don't need a car in New York. It was more of a hindrance than anything else. I learned that lesson. But I was like sleeping in the back seat of it, and then I got woken up. This is after that affair. And it was this girl, the girl who lived in the thing. And she and she woke me up and said, "Hey, what's going on? Come on up." We were at, there's some art opening or something like that. I didn't know their private lives or anything like that. And so I got into the place. But it's like I was sleeping on the street, dealing with that kind of stuff. I mean, it was crazy. And then, in time I used to visit them because they were like the only friends. This is the first time I went to New York. I was in New York several times, had different jobs, and got progressively better at work. But that was the first time I went. But I used to walk to like these bodegas or whatever you call them, like these weird places. And man, there was like street scenes that are just hard to describe. I remember passing this lot one time, and there was a guy who had climbed a telephone pole and had tapped the phone, not the phone, but the electric wires. The guy maybe had an electrician's job in the daytime or not, just understood electric better than most. Tapped the power line and had that fed into a guy who was a DJ down on the ground. And they were having this, like, in this parking lot, they had this live DJ tapping the power from a pole, from a power line pole, right? And it was a street scene, street dance, kind of scene. And I just am walking right by this thing. I stopped for a while, listen to some music and stuff. You learn how to dress, how to walk, how to act, how to be like inconspicuous, how to like fit into the background. I think I told the story before, like when I used to ride the subway at 3 or 4 a.m. You wear the older leather jacket. You always have sneakers on. You just dress down and you become invisible. It's like that meditation, like some kind of Eastern meditation. You just make yourself invisible. And these gang guys come through the car. They walk through the various subway cars. Just looking, predators and prey, basically. And you just have to make yourself invisible. And they'll walk right by you. And I was lucky. I survived New York. And a couple of times I told those stories, towards the end, I was like a tough guy. Because it was beyond survival, your defense mechanism is that like, hey, don't mess with me. So you have to like kind of project the idea of like, don't even think about it. You mess with me and it's not worth your while. Go find some easier prey, Mr. Predator, right? It's like in the law of, the Serengeti or something, or or bears in the woods or something, You growl at each other, people hold their line, but ultimately both or one or the other realizes it's not worth this fight, right? Because that's not what a predator wants. A predator doesn't want to fight for a fight's sake. Only humans do that stupid stuff, right? I always because I was never that kind of guy. People who fought in high school and stuff like that. And still to this day, there's, people fight. Middle-aged men, and women. And I always looked at that and go like, what's the purpose? What are you doing? You're fighting, like a bar fight type of idea. What's to be gained? I mean, it's one thing if you're defending somebody, if somebody's, going after some woman, it's like that the Punisher, right? I mean, I like that. Now that's a show I can, relate to, so. But I mean, if somebody's taking advantage of some, innocent person and you can defend them, I understand that. All right. But somebody tuned in for about 6 minutes. But when I said the Punisher, that like scared them. Hey, these are real stories,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I know for some people.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
People and blogs. Stories. And it's like people are missing this. That's one of the things people are missing now. You can't do that now. Right? And so what I was trying to say, when I got on that whole rant, was that, hey, I lived in L.A. and I left L.A., I had a falling out with my business partner. We had a business right on Sunset Boulevard. I had an office. In the back, I had my office. I was doing talent management and, involved in producing and things like that. And I had some offers to do some other stuff. To stay in the, the movie business, so to speak. And I had my hands in some other projects like the Troubadour and things like that. I could tell stories about all kinds of stuff in L.A. And I was known in L.A. and I knew people in L.A. People knew me. I knew them. I was part of the scene at the time I was there. But I was going through a divorce, had a falling out with this like cheating wife actress was trying to get using me for a green card type of thing. Dutch actress. I'm not going to mention the name. But, I decided, I'm forget it. I'm getting out of here. And that's when I came back east. And that was like right around 90, like the 90s, early 90s. Sometime around that point. I can't pinpoint it. It's kind of a blur. In my first book, I don't know if I put the timeline in that, but I tell that story or a story close to it. I usually say the names have been changed to protect the innocent type of thing, and this is, these characters in no way represent, real people, the disclaimer, right? Fictional thing. You have to say that stuff, because there's opportunists out there, and ambulance chaser lawyers. Everybody's trying to sue somebody for something, take advantage of another person. But what I was getting at is that, I wasn't about to, I had run my course, with the projects I was working on. And I was a thick-headed guy, and I had this falling out with my business partner in this business that we had. And I basically go like, screw you, man. And it was like, I wasn't going to go back and say apologize or whatever, because I felt I was right. I was thick-headed. All right. I could have went back and said, okay, you think, what you, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I had a good life, but it was a combination of things that happened. Sometimes a confluence of events. There were about 3 or 4 different things that just made the situation really bad. And I left. And I came back east. And ultimately, I eventually got, back on my feet, and I had some great adventures and, decent jobs and work and my own businesses and all that kind of stuff. But the idea was when I left, and I pretty much was, had like the money in my pocket, and that was it. I sold my car. I flew out of LA. And so I could have stayed and been, and if things didn't work out, I could have been like homeless, I guess. I couldn't be, but I mean, I understand how but the idea is that I decided to leave. And the thing is, these people who are homeless living on the sidewalk, just make a decision and leave, leave. It's LA. It's just one city, There's other cities out there. It's like, I lived in New York. I lived in D.C. I lived in Philly. I moved around. There's other places you can be. There's places you could find. You could find a place like I found here. And you can live so cheap. And like I was saying, there's no reason for anyone to be starving or not have health care or housing in America, because the safety net is alive and well and has been. It's live under the guy, who's, running this corporatocracy right now. It was under the last guy, whether you want to believe it or not. He didn't mess with it. And it was, alive and well under the last couple of other guys who ran this whole thing. Progressively, they've all run this country into the ground to the point where it's a corporatocracy, and it's basically the former United States, right? That answers to an organized crime syndicate called the World Economic Forum that meets at Davos. But, you can survive. You just have to have the will to survive. And, I don't want to leave San Francisco. I don't want to leave LA. I don't want to leave, or just leave for a year. Go somewhere, go inland a little bit, get a job, save some money, and then come back if you love the place so much. I think that's another thing. People don't have the perspective, the patience, and the understanding of time, right? There were many, many times in my life that I wanted something, but I had to realize that it would take time to achieve it, sometimes a year. It's like even the move to me here, and as bad as it is, where I have this roofing thing that I'm trying to systematically deal with, and I just want to double check this weather again to see if there's been any change. It's still saying like 2%, 1% chance of rain. But Saturday has turned to full cloudiness, and it was sun behind the cloud, prior. See, this is the part I don't understand. All right, it's the year 2021. I say this all the time. Now, how is 25, 30 years ago, if you watched a weather forecast, the night before, they pretty much, a meteorologist pretty much, because you had radar and all this kind of stuff, even back then, but all sorts of things, there's been weather satellites, not as sophisticated as the things today. But, this concept of even just the old weather gauges, barometric pressure and things like that, where they had these weather stations that were, some of them were literally just like wooden boxes with various, devices in them, things, the things spinning with the wind, like I say, the pressure, temperature gauges, idea of dealing with humidity, and that kind of stuff. And there was the science of meteorology. And so pretty much if, within X amount of hours, someone said it's going to be partly cloudy, there's no chance of rain, or it's going to rain, take an umbrella with you. And if the chance was over 50%, well, you could almost take that to the bank. I mean, there were exceptions all the time, but not like all the time, Now, and see, people say, well, what do you, who are you? Well, I'll tell you who I am. I'm the guy who's doing this kind of stuff. All right? Who's like checking the weather, right? Who's looking at NOAA maps, National Weather Service, monitoring it on a daily basis. So I think I can say with firsthand knowledge, right? This is the place where you go,
the Weather Watch forecast.
Right? I basically almost every time I'm going to do a show, I give you the weather forecast. And I forecast it in my area. And not every day, but I do the national weather forecast periodically. So I've noticed that more times than not, NOAA and the National Weather Service have been wrong. But I'm not talking on long-term forecast, that kind of thing. It's understandable. Part of that's guesswork. Part of it's based on historical averages and things like that. They have a formula for when they give you the 14-day forecast. There's various inputs into it that they come to that conclusion with. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that yesterday, today was supposed to be partly sunny. And now I'm looking at a map that's showing that there's this big chunk of rain/thunderstorms moving eastward. It's like, that wasn't supposed to happen. Where did it come from? Right? And when you look at this, there's no, in that same area, you can see that the temperatures are in the 60s and 70s in that generalized area. So it's not like there's this convergence of some kind of front that creates a storm. See, I could see something happening out in the beyond the Midwest, where you're clashing, where it's 86 degrees, 81 degrees, and then, the next state over, it's 71, 69 or something like that. When you have this convergence of like heat and cold, that causes, a weather event. I know enough about that. I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I grow stuff in my garden, so I'm a daily, I have to, wherever the heck it is, just to reinforce this. I even keep if I could bring it up here, my garden planning record, all right, which is a daily thing that I'll use to compare next year when I grow. I will look, and then I compare what time, when was the last frost, or when did I harvest, carrots, potatoes, when did the tomatoes, ripen, and peppers, this, that, the other. So that's very confusing to me. People say, well, it's climate change. No, it's not climate change. No, things are based upon, unless somebody's doing some rain dance, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. There is no logical reason whatsoever that there should be rain right now from a meteorological standpoint. And this was issued at 3:58, basically 4 a.m. All right. So I don't know what the heck's going on. And I'm very disappointed because that's going to totally mess up with my, and it's not this. I just want to go back to this. It's going to totally mess up with this. Because, I'm hoping that at least the caulking that you see behind the mesh here has dried. Because I did that about 1 or 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. But I wanted today to put over the ceiling. The purpose of the mesh is to put a sealant, a roofing sealant over that mesh to just totally clinch the deal. But if it's raining, I'm screwed. I can't put on a thing because it'll just come right through it. That stuff takes 24 hours or something to dry. I think I read about that on the can when I was looking at it. It's not like some 20-minute dry. They had stuff like that, but it was $85 a gallon can. They have all kinds of really cool stuff when you go to the box stores, But I didn't have that kind of money to piss away. So I bought the $27 one. But this is back to America, people living in America. And it's like I'm saying, there's 8 billion people on the planet. And so, yes, there are billions of people who are living, horrible lives. compared to the fact that there's only 330 some million. I mean, we have an open border right now, so like, you know, this country's growing like by the millions each year. So who knows? And, you know, our censuses don't cover, you know, people who are just floating around and don't want to be counted. So, you know, we don't know how many people are in this country. Could be 350 million people. But like I say, even that amount compared to in China, they have like 1.3 billion people. So they've got 1 billion more people than we do. And Southeast Asia, there's 1 billion people down there. That's what I was trying to say before. It's like 1 billion people in these various countries, all, you know, all along these island chain type of places, you know, basically formed through, you know, ancient volcanic activity. You know, Krakatoa is east of Java. You know, India, over 1 billion people. And a lot of poverty in India. But yeah, we're approaching 8 billion people on the planet. So so back to Maurer, it's like, yeah, it's a true statement. The elite, right? The newspaper, the newsreaders, the Bill Maurers, the entertainers, right? The political class, the people who are all making millions and millions of dollars living in their high castles. Yeah, they've got it way better than most people on the planet. But the average person on the streets in the inner cities, you know, the struggling people, you know, out of the 330 to 350 million people, you know, there could be tens of millions of people in America that are living in abject poverty. Like the same as in these other foreign countries. And from a percentage population-wise, the same percentage, right? From a percentage standpoint. You know. So, you know, it's kind of annoying when I see these elitists make these statements, you know, and whether it's out of their own ignorance, the fact that they've never walked through South Central LA or, you know what it's like to be, you know, in an inner city, you know, Chicago on a weekend where there's like all these shootings and what have you. Neighborhoods that you don't even want to walk through. You walk through it, you take your life into your hand. I mean, you know, you're risking your life. Because that's the way it is. So it's very annoying when people do that. I wasn't necessarily going to talk about that today, you know. My title card, fixing a roof where the rain came in. But, you know, it kind of fits in with it, you know. And I think I have a picture or two about my roof is even in this Then What book. It made it. Get the book. The coffee is now colder than room temperature, as I often comment on. How is that possible? How could it get colder than room temperature? So, yeah, you know, look at me. You know, I'm trying to patch a roof to keep water from coming down into a bedroom. Hey, Bill Maher, do you have that problem? Do you have that problem, buddy? All right. And I had a friend willing to, take me up to the box store and whatnot, to get some materials and stuff I needed. Of course, now it looks like it's a battle with whether or not whether I get bad weather or not to finish the job. It's crazy. And the work I did yesterday, I mean, if I get some thunderstorm, torrential downpour, it could just basically, several tubes of that sealant and stuff, without this final coat of what I wanted to do to really seal these spots, I mean, it could just ruin that, work. And I'm back, in other words, okay, that was a waste of money. Now I need to start from square one again. So there's plenty of people suffering out there, 6:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday, September 25th, 2021. And there's a lot of people just living the same way. Like kind of almost worse than it was in the 80s or so, Think about it. All this, yesterday's show, I was talking about rising above technology and stuff and how the focus on tech is, that's another group of people, big tech, big pharma, big ag, the Fed and these military contractors and stuff, that they're so self-centered and they're living such lives that are totally so far removed from the average person that they're clueless about the hundreds of millions of other people in the country. But you can't blame them, I guess, in one regard, because the hundreds of millions of people in the country are so infatuated with this, right? Their life revolves around that. Like, oh, big tech, but look, they gave us this thing, this magical little device that we could text and have apps on and do this. And, hey, we can watch the new season of such and such is on Netflix or Apple TV or Amazon Prime or Hulu or whatever, HBO Max. And people have come to that acceptance. Or, wow, hey, we could all watch the movie together using FaceTime if we have the iPhone and an Apple TV monthly membership fee. We could watch it together and eat popcorn and all, be connected through FaceTime and chat with each other about the movie, or have a music listening party while we're all in our own little caves, right? Lockdown ahead, right? It's what it's looking like,
Your papers, please.
Another lockdown ahead. Hey, it's cold here. It was 49 degrees last night. I don't know what the temperature is now. I could double check it again. It's 46 degrees. It actually got colder. Because the night is as dark as the night's going to get. Sunrise isn't until 7:06 a.m. here. So it's 6:15 a.m. So it's down to 46 degrees. 46. That actually might be enough to have messed up that caulking that I put in, because that stuff doesn't like it to get into the 40s, really. So this is flu season, so call it what you will. Lockdowns ahead is the way I see it, It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like I say, what does the word crazy mean to people anymore? It doesn't mean anything, you know. I don't know.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
No, man. Good luck with that. You are a number and you are not a free man. That's not the way things work these days, you know. Sorry about that.
Shut your damn cake hole!
No, I'm not going to. I'm not going to shut it, you know.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
You know, just another Saturday early morning show. Me telling some stories. 0 viewers at the present time. We'll see if anybody else watches this show later. Total lack of interest. Basically, the show's been canceled. You know, the way I look at it. I mean, they don't need to ban me. I haven't gotten a notification that anyone bought the book. I mean, I did. It's so weird. It's so weird. You know? The subtitle of my book, and I should have put it on, you know, in the listing. I realized after the fact I didn't do it, and I don't want to mess with these, you know, the various portals that when you put a book for sale, you know, whether it's Apple, Kindle, or, you know, well, Kindle's part of Amazon, but the Amazon print version. But when you open the book, it says A Man Out of Time, which is technically the subtitle of this book. Though I didn't put it on there because I wanted to put Flow of Consciousness. And if I put anything else on there, it just would have gotten too busy. So I just, what normally would be like, it looks like you're reading a chapter when you first get into it. It says A Man Out of Time. That's the subtitle of the book. And I guess that's what I am. You know? You know, and the Man Out of Time thing, I may or may not explain it in the book. I don't know. That was like a whirlwind. Man, that was a whirlwind writing that book. It was every day. It was just, you know, I mean, that's how writing is, you know. I mean, I got into the writer's process. I got up bright and early in the morning and just sat there and wrote. Wrote for like 4 hours, maybe took a food break, and then went back to writing again. You know, in other words, I just wrote, and I wrote every day, 7 days a week for a couple of weeks, and I was done. And, you know, it was a flow of consciousness. But, you know, a man at a time means two things, you know. You know, could be the obvious one. Well, man at a time, what do you got? You know, terminally ill? No. Well, not. Hopefully, knock on wood, you know. Did have cancer. Hopefully that stays away. But I could be a man out of time. But more so a man out of time. In other words, kind of like, you know...
you have actually opened the door to another dimension?
You know, something along that line. Or, you know...
You're now in a different continuum than the world you're used to.
You know, that kind of thing. I don't know. But it feels that way. You know, it feels that way. You know, they actually have on Amazon Prime now, when you go to the home page, there's actually, it's home, and the next thing over, I believe, says live. And I just went on through, not just, but a little while ago, earlier in the show, when I looked something up, when I was going for the weather, or what was I checking? I don't know, whatever it was. The YouTube page came up, and there was my, title card, visible, fixing a roof where the rain came in. But, there's nobody watching. Granted, it's a Saturday morning or people are sleeping. Had a Friday night out, I guess. Perhaps. I don't know. But the thing is, there's no reason why later on people wouldn't check it out. So I guess there's just not an interest in this stuff. Is it so scary when I say you don't know what you don't know? Is that confrontational? It must be. Game over. Oh, people don't want to think about that. The former United States. Oh, no. What are you talking about? Build back better. Save America. Let's great reset it. And then everything is wrong. Oh, my God. And then what? Question mark. But, these are all truisms. This is it. It's the way it is. Crazy. It's really crazy. And after this, as I wind this show down, I'll go up and I'll watch this. I'll watch the playback. It's too early to do anything. I can't mess around in the attic. I have to read that can of that stuff. I mean, a part of me is hoping I could dream, can't I? Maybe it's some fast working seal that could be, deal with moisture. That would be my dream. And I could go up there and slap this on, that mesh, if it hasn't all peeled off overnight because it's 46 degrees outside right now. And there's no heat up in the attic. But, if the right things come together, maybe this morning I'll be able to do that. Maybe the rain won't come. I mean, the weirdest thing is, according to this map, you don't know where I live. Some people think they do. My mustache is itchy, sorry. But, actually, you can't see that because I have this thing up. But, this thunderstorm rain, thing that's coming, coming out of Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio, eastward into Pennsylvania and West Virginia, just basically coming into the Appalachian Trail area. I mean, that's weather valid 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, September 25th to 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Sunday, September 26th. Fronts valid 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Saturday, September 25th, 2021. That's according to the National Weather Service, NOAA National Weather Service. Now, if for some reason that's tonight's weather, then there's a possibility this morning I could slap on this stuff if it says on the can that it dries in 4 hours or something. But I doubt that. I think it's a 24. A lot of times those kind of things, they need 24 hours to really set up and seal. Again, there were these cans of stuff for $87 that were quick seal, instant seal, wet, stuff you could put on, stop a leak while it's happening type of stuff. But, you know, this hyperinflation in this country, and you go to this box, it's not just the wood that's expensive. It's the stuff that works that's expensive. Imagine that, like $87, you know, with tax, you know, it's like you're talking like $90 some, almost $100 for a can of something that wouldn't even do all the work I need to be done. I'd need to spend a couple $100 just on the goop. But it's the same with healthy foods. You know, you could buy like cheap crap, you know, bread and cheap peanut butter and, you know, the goofiest things, you know, for next to nothing. And we wonder why we have obesity and type 2 diabetes in this country, and that heart disease is still the number one killer. But, you know, when you want to go out and buy things that are actually nutritious for you, vitamin-rich, healthy foods, they cost a fortune. You know, it's weird. Well, it's not weird. It's just the way it is. And that's another thing, that the average person just sits there like, duh, I'm just going to text my friend or talk to my friend. Let's do FaceTime and talk about nothing, or watch TikTok, or talk about the latest TikTok, some of these TikTok videos things, or whatever. Or look at me on Instagram. Look what I did. Hey, here's pictures of our vacation on Facebook. Right? Or look, let's laugh at this our political enemy, you know, on Twitter. Like, people are like, everything's misdirected. They don't see that it's the corporatocracy that's the enemy of everybody. You know? Runaway inflation. The cost of living, the quality of life, and this idea, this promise of technology is going to save us. But all technology's been doing is making the ruling elite and big tech wealthier and wealthier. So Jeff Bezos could spend $2 billion to spend 7 minutes just at the edge of the atmosphere so he could see space and then come back. $2 billion, waste $2 billion for 7 minutes. Excuse me. Imagine what $2 billion, you know, could do positively. If I had $2 billion, I mean, I put this challenge out there. If I had $2 billion, I could probably cure, you know, cancer or something like that. You know, I'd hire a dozen. You know, I'd put together like let's get this thing cured in 90 days, 6 months tops, and hire a dozen of the best doctors, you know, research scientists and people like that, and say, I don't need you full time. I just need you to put in so many hours on this a week, and I'm going to give you each $10 million, right? Say I had 10 of those people. That would only be, you know, $100 million. I see I've got a $2 billion budget. You know, and then I would just create, you know, then I'd take another 100 million and I'd create this ridiculous high-tech lab space for $100 million. You could do that. This high-tech place with access to all the information. Then I'd spend maybe another $50 million and I'd get the best coders and, you know, maybe 100 million, and just part-time say, look, here's what we need. I need state of the art. I need GPT-4. All right. I want to get this. I want to have this, you know, disseminate all of the information that's ever been written about this, you know, cancer or whatever. And let's run these algorithms and AI and sift through this data at lightning, you know, the speed of tech. right? And I'm still not even at $500 million. Do you see what I mean? And this guy spent $2 billion so he could go for 7 minutes and look, oh, I'm in space for 7 minutes. That's what's wrong with this country. And that's right. You know, when I say rise above technology, technology is bringing us down. It's not taking us anywhere. You know, and we still have this thing that we're on the verge of, you know, a possible 12,000 year solar nova event, which people just don't even want to talk about. We're going to talk about that in the coming days and weeks. It's just a matter of getting, I have to pull, there's a lot of factual information and a lot of research involved in that. So it's not something I'm going to just flow of consciousness, you know, off the cuff, do a show on. I have got to do some preparation because I really want you to, like I say, I like to bring you the facts based upon information and real science, not just hearsay. You know, not just my opinion on something. You know, I talk about some of these things and I let you know. It's like, well, I'm questioning this. Even then what? It's a big question mark on the book, you know. So, anyway, with that said, I guess it's time to end the show.
Good morning.
Thanks for watching. You know, visit TonyCaravanLive.com as always, or ROCKFLUX.com. This is the ROCKFLUX YouTube channel. Great solar stuff, has some stuff that could really be, if not a lifesaver, make the quality of life during a storm or some sort of natural disaster or even just a power out situation copable, you know? I've used it. I've tested it. You've seen it on this show, powering things behind me. So get the book. It only costs $9.95. Get the print version on Amazon.com. I'll probably talk to you tomorrow. If it doesn't rain, you know, if I'm set back, I may have to skip a day because I'll be up there like cleaning up the mess. But hopefully that doesn't occur and that this is some anomaly from the National Weather Service. For some reason, they're showing this thing and it's just not right. But, you know, I don't know. Anyway, take care.